baculei esse impasse, me mudar da vila pra Montparnasse. Eu sei que o tempo hoje, do verde amarelo pra bleu blanc rouge, da Conde Bonfim pro Moulin Rouge. Paris, uma loura envolta em negligê, tom surdo e degradê. O meu francês é meio assim, já baculei esse impasse, me mudar da vila pra Montparnasse. Eu sei que o tempo hoje, do verde amarelo pra bleu blanc rouge, da Conde Bonfim pro Moulin Rouge. Très bien, que beleza, ver o pandeiro tocar a marselhesa. Pra cada mês e pouco eu mando na parte quatro le samba voilà. Com mon amour eu vou derreter. Dieu, qu'est-ce que c'est que vous voulez? C'est la question de mes chants. Marchetel, eu vou através. Marchetel, eu vou através. Marchetel, eu vou através. Marchetel, eu vou voar Paris. Uma loura envolta em negligê, tom surdo e degradê. O meu francês é meio assim, já baculei esse impasse, me mudar da vila pra Montparnasse. Eu sei que o tempo hoje, do verde amarelo pra bleu blanc rouge, da Conde Bonfim pro Moulin Rouge. Très bien, que beleza, ver um pandeiro tocar a marselhesa. Pra cada mês e pouco eu mando na parte quatro le samba voilà. Com mon amour eu vou derreter. Dieu, qu'est-ce que c'est que vous voulez? C'est la question de mes chants. Marchetel, vou voar pra ver. Marchetel, vou voar pra ver. Marchetel, vou voar pra ver. Marchetel, vou voar pra ver.
Ok. Com você, Renato.
Not of microphone.
Ok. Listen, everybody. A gente está ao vivo aqui. Ao pessoal que vai assistir essa live agora, que está assistindo e que vai ouvir depois, vai acessar, né? E às vezes até tirar dúvidas que sempre queria perguntar para esses grandes bateristas. Então, como eu sou fã de cada um, do trabalho de cada um, o trabalho de vocês é muito importante. Eu quero fazer a introdução em português primeiro, e nós temos nosso querido também, Aloysio, que fará a tradução, se necessário, para os convidados. Primeiro, eu queria agradecer a Ramon, em português, a Duduka, pela presença, I would like to thank you, Klaus and Peter, to be here with you. everybody. And I will start with 3 questions that I separated that to me is so important, is so real in our time now. So I will speak Portuguese, and our friend Aloysio will to do a translation for everybody that listen here. Vamos lá, let's go. O tema aqui de hoje é ritmo e criatividade de desenvolvimento em processos criativos da bateria. Então, a minha questão trazida é que, com o grande acesso que temos na internet, a gente acessa muitos materiais, muito rápido, e eu notei uma questão rítmica muito presente em materiais didáticos que a gente vê hoje, tão fáceis de acessar. Mas também, ao mesmo tempo, não tem tanta profundidade. E tem algumas questões assim que eu considero importantes para um estudante de bateria, talvez que queriam perguntar, queriam tirar essa dúvida, e o trabalho de vocês, muitas vezes, responde a estas questões. Então, todo esse processo rítmico criativo, ele é individual, né, de cada um de vocês, e de maneiras diferentes, né, de como se alcança esse conhecimento dentro da música. Então, eu considero importante as pessoas ouvirem diretamente de vocês qual foi esse percurso rítmico criativo, e por isso eu separei 3 questões para fazerem para vocês.
Oh, hi guys. Klaus, Peter, and Duduka understood everything. But Renato would just like to thank you all for the presence in the live today, and that he admires a lot of your work, of you all, Ramon, Duduka, Peter, and Klaus. And the theme of the live is the rhythmic and the creative development process on the drums. So Renato did an introduction saying that we have a lot of information available for everybody nowadays on YouTube, on the web. And this information floating around helps a lot, but sometimes makes the students a little confused as well. So he will make you guys a few questions. How do you process that, and how do you apply that on your career and your techniques? Okay?
Ok.
Renato.
Tá. A primeira questão, I will ask you to, in the sequence, Peter, Klaus, Ramon, Duduka. Okay, guys? Peter, qual a sua visão sobre o desenvolvimento das ideias rítmicas da bateria e do que você realmente acredita que um baterista precisa para desenvolver isso? E uma outra questão, de que maneira, se você puder responder, você pode dar um exemplo de que maneira um baterista pode desenvolver ideias fraseadas, né, que contribuam para esse desenvolvimento que é a longo prazo. De que maneira você vê isso? Qual a sua visão sobre isso? E dê um exemplo para nós, se puder, de alguma coisa, de um livro, de uma técnica ou de algo que quem está nos assistindo pode pegar isso e seguir como exemplo.
Okay, Peter, you're the first one, yeah?
First victim.
Yeah, the first victim. So you got the question already?
Yeah, I got it. I totally understand.
Okay. So he wants to know what's your vision, what's your idea about the development of the rhythm ideas on the drums, and what does a drummer really need that in this case, and how do you develop that in your construction of the drums and the techniques? And if you can, you just tell us a book or a technique or an example of the whole idea in the process. Okay?
Yes. I thought that the first comment was an interesting one. The idea that there's so much information floating around in the world now with different websites and YouTube and Drumeo and just there's an overwhelming amount of information in the world. And there's a difference between information and knowledge. And I have a lot of drum students, and every single one of them came to me for the same reason. They said, I hit a wall and I don't know what to do. I know I need to improve, and I keep watching videos, I keep reading things, and it's just confusing to me. I don't know how to proceed in a step-by-step way. And the interesting thing is I remember feeling the same way as a student myself. And anytime I wanted to learn about a style of music, I felt like I really had to make major steps towards learning it, and it was difficult. In some ways, in my generation, pre-YouTube, pre-all this, it was hard to find information. But when I found the information, I really worked on it. And I spent a long time on the things I thought were right. And the temptation today is to just keep jumping to the latest thing you see, or one sees conflicting reports about what you should be doing. And I think students more than ever need guidance with this. And I felt like I needed the same thing back when I was young. So I have very specific things that I use to learn myself, and I teach my students the same way. I feel like my vision for rhythmic development is related to music, because rhythmic development with music is very specific. And each style of music that I like has certain words or language attached to it.
Okay,
And,
Peter, can you just give me a second so I can translate for the guys here in
oh,
Brazil?
yes.
Just
Yes.
a little bit. All right. Ok, então o que o Peter está falando é que ele, com toda essa informação que vem flutuando aí, né, que está disponível na internet, que ele acha que os conceitos são bem diferentes, né, entre informação e conhecimento. Tem uma diferença muito grande. E o que ele tem visto é que os alunos dele vêm sempre chegando para ele assim, ó, parei de evoluir, né, não avanço mais, cheguei num muro aí que eu não consigo mais andar para frente. E que aí ele falou que também que para ele o desenvolvimento rítmico da bateria tem muito a ver com a música, que é o que ele vai falar para a gente aí. O Ramon e o Renato querem complementar alguma coisa?
Não, é isso. Pode continuar.
Ok, Peter.
That sounded much more beautiful than what I said. So, with each style that I'm either learning about or teaching, I feel like there's certain vocabulary or words that are important. And the words could come from a book, but I find often it's not book language that we need as much as maybe a combination of a book, but it has to be attached to music. And we need to hear great people playing the music, and we need to decipher what they're doing. I think there's a tradition to every style that we play, and the student needs a clear idea of vocabulary or the words. And I don't think a book alone teaches it. I don't think listening to music alone is good for most students. Some students who really hear well, maybe they get it. But I think students need some combination of hearing and seeing the language and hearing and seeing how it's applied to the style.
Great. Ok, então o que o Peter está falando é que assim, é como se fosse na gramática, né? Você tem o vocabulário todo, né, que você aprende na bateria, as palavras, as técnicas, os rudimentos e tudo mais, mas isso tudo tem que vir junto com a música, né? E que o estudante tem que ter uma ideia clara do vocabulário, né, da técnica, mais a música. Ok? Ramon e Renato?
Eu tenho uma pergunta, Luiz. Sobre essas combinações de livros, no seu tempo de estudo de bateria, desde quando você começou, quais foram essas melhores, vamos supor, as melhores combinações, o que realmente fez você evoluir, quais combinações que fez você evoluir nesse tempo de estudo que você, desde mais jovem até hoje?
Peter, Renato is asking, when you're building your vocabulary, what books and what combination of input you had?
Well, every style is different. One thing I'll say for me is when I was putting certain styles together, one thing I really tried to seek out was great recordings by important people. I remember, for example, I'm from Ohio originally, and I used to just come to New York to learn things. I would take lessons, but also I would go see people like Duduka playing around. And I used to also buy records, CDs at the time. And I remember, for example, I had a lesson with Robbie Amin about some Afro-Cuban drumming. And he's like, do you know a lot about records? And I said, this is one of the reasons I'm here. And he sent me to a record store inside the subway at Times Square. And I bought a stack of CDs like this that I needed to listen to about Afro-Cuban music. And I remember I didn't have the money and I had a credit card and I'm like, oh man, this is going to take forever to pay off, because I was a student, I was a college student. And I just went ahead and bought them and took them home and started to listen to the things. And so this is very important to me. I listen to the music and then I try to find material about the books. Try to find in this case, an Afro-Cuban book. And I try to listen to say, do the records sound like the books? What's the disconnect here? Or what is the connection here? And I would look in the book to help me with what I heard. Also, I would make a stack like this and I would listen to every CD. And then I would say, I like these ones. I don't understand these ones. And I would put those away for a while. And I would take one at a time and just listen to it and try to figure things out. I would transcribe things I heard as best I could. And I would look at the books as help for this. So I think that this two-step thing, is you've got some book material and you've got some music happening. Also, if I could take a lesson with somebody who knew more, that was really helpful always.
Ok. Renato, quer falar? Ou Ramon?
Passar para o Ramon, se o Ramon quiser falar. Yes.
No, okay, for me. I will wait for my
Ok.
my way.
Ok, o que o Peter estava falando aí, que tem um approach interessante, né, o Peter, que ele pegou aí os CDs que ele foi comprar aí em lojas assim bem alternativas de Nova York, uma lá embaixo do metrô, assim, que passava com aquelas, eu não sei quem já teve a oportunidade de ir a Nova York aí, tem umas lojas de instrumentos e discos assim que são inacreditáveis, às vezes é uma parede imensa, às vezes é um negócio subterrâneo, assim, e o Peter ia numas lojas dessas assim, comprava um monte de CD, depois ele ia para os livros e comparava assim, o que tinha no livro daquela música e o que tinha no CD, para ver se a linguagem era próxima. E aí ele teve essa relação muito com o ritmo afro-cubano, que foi através do
Robbie Amin,
Great Robbie Amin. E aí ele analisou essas para ver se o que tinha no livro escrito, né, estava próximo do que tinha no CD e vice-versa, né?
É o que eu vou falar. O que eu gostaria de comentar em português para as pessoas é que o que ele está falando, eu até vou falar quando for responder, mas é essa coisa de ter a parte prática, ter a parte de teoria, de você praticar, estudar com livros, mas combinar isso com a parte de prática, de vivência mesmo, de estar lá e tocar ao vivo, Peter, I'm just saying for the Brazilian guys that there's a combination, as you said, as a combination of studying on books, on theory, and complete with a life experience, playing and watching people playing. There's a combination that there's no way to split this just a practice. And I as a I'm thinking about this, and not just study in your room with books, and not just playing as a live situations. I think when you complement, when you add these two words, and I think it's the best way to understand and music and grow.
I don't want to talk too much more because I want to hear what everybody else has to say. But the last thing I'll say is I spent more time with music than a book. The book helped when I didn't understand something, or I needed to read some history, or different, like Duduka's book. I bought this for some Brazilian drumming years ago, and it was so helpful just to read through and look at the patterns, and it helped me to yes, and it helped me to start to listen to the music. And I don't know, I still felt like I was confused, but it helped to start the process of understanding. So I think we need both. And I think I always say one last thing. If I gave a student this many CDs or this many books, they would learn more if they listened to the music than if they read out of a book. And it's funny, I have 2 books out, but I just think it's the combination of the music and the book. And then YouTube is great today because we could see great players and hear great players. Uh-oh. Who did that? We could hear and see great players, live. And I think the one drawback of the world today is people see and they think they're hearing. And I think when you hear a YouTube video, you often should look away and listen to it, because music is a oral form. It's through the ears. It's not as much through the eyes. We use eyes to see the band members, but we listen to them, and we have to develop our hearing. Okay, I've talked enough.
Great.
I want to hear what these guys have to say. So.
Ok, o que o Peter estava falando é que ele sempre acha que também tirou mais proveito, né, da parte prática, né, e de ouvir a música do que só da parte teórica e dos livros, né, e que se ele desse um bolo de CD para os alunos em vários livros, acho que eles aproveitavam mais assim dos CDs e da música. Então, e a sugestão dele é sempre, se você está vendo aí qualquer tipo de informação na internet, YouTube, mesmo está assistindo, que você ouça, né, que você viva a música ali para você poder evoluir mais, né? Ok? Peter?
Klaus.
Hi, Klaus.
Hey, yes, I'm here, back in action. First of all, great input from you, Pete. I would for sure pick different words, but I mean, I would say exactly the same. I subscribe 100% to what has just been said. I could almost rest my case here, if you want to translate.
Ok, Klaus, thank you. O Klaus está falando aí, gente, que ele concorda 100% aí com o que o Peter falou e que ele até podia nem falar nenhuma palavra mais, porque o Peter disse tudo e ele concorda com tudo. Mas o Klaus vai contribuir também, lógico. Ok, Klaus.
So as opposed to just repeating in different words what Peter just said, let me add a couple of extra thoughts as some kind of a conceptual extension to that. Pete said something interesting with regards to there is information and there is knowledge. I would expand to that by saying there is opinions and there is facts. And at times in a teaching process or in the process of getting better or in the process of making your students be a better player, at times you simply have to apply some kind of common sense. Let's say, imagine, I mean, without knowing anything about the drums or music, is it possible that this guy in front of me on the screen here, is it possible that what this guy is saying, is that really true? Would that work for me? Question yourself.
Ok, great point, Klaus. O que o Klaus está falando aí, gente, é que você tem que ter senso crítico, não é? Para assimilar todas as informações que estão flutuando aí nesse nosso mundo aí da internet. Tem sempre que ter senso crítico para analisar o que você está introjetando, tanto para diferenciar informação e conhecimento e opiniões e fatos. Porque você tem que questionar se aquele cara que está ali no YouTube fazendo aquele monte de coisa diferente ali, será que aquilo ali realmente é verdade ou leva a algum lugar? Então, né, tem que ter senso crítico. Não é isso, Renato, Ramon?
Concordo. Eu tenho uma questão. Essas tais combinações, Klaus, será que hoje, de tantas combinações, isso não ficou uma coisa muito mecânica e pouco musical? Assim, eu enxergo um pouco disso, da nossa visão, às vezes, para ensinar, ok, precisamos disso, mas, às vezes, para tocar, precisamos diluir isso na música, né? Qual que é a sua visão sobre isso?
Klaus, Renato is asking, what do you think that with all this information, if the playing, it's not getting too mechanic in a way, and the teaching and all the process, if it's not getting too mechanic for, to reach the students and.
Well, I mean, with regards to how you sound or how your student sounds, I would still, I mean, basically in the same way as Pete was just saying, musical imagination, having some sort of musical imagination in your mind, that is the most important thing. And once you have this ready, I mean, there's not a lot of other things that can go wrong. And honestly, I have seen a lot of drummers with outstanding coordination and technique, and they wouldn't say anything to me. And I have seen people with the most basic, and I mean, not even existing technique and coordination, and they were saying beautiful things on the instrument. So there is something about the strength of musical imagination in the minds of musicians, which at times even helps them to overcome certain challenges in terms of, I mean, lack of technique, lack of coordination, lack of whatever skill on the instrument. But when their musical imagination was strong enough, they could still overcome all these obstacles and play great music. And I think that basically is the only way to overcome that obstacle of sounding in a mechanic or stiff way, I would say.
Great. Quer falar, Renato? Ou não?
Não? Queria fazer a mesma pergunta para acho que é o Ramon, né?
Ok, mas deixa eu traduzir então aqui.
Okay.
O que o Peter mencionou aí é que para os estudantes, principalmente, você tem que manter a imaginação musical, né? Eu acho que ele quis também dizer nessa questão de imaginação musical, a sensibilidade para a música, né? Manter isso forte, buscar isso, porque aí não adianta você ser aquela virtuose de técnica, né? Manter ali aquela coordenação e técnica maravilhosa, fazendo tudo a 300 BPM e não passar uma mensagem, né, para a audiência, para o público, né? Ele falou que ele já viu várias pessoas que têm uma técnica maravilhosa, mas que não passam nada para ele. E já viu uma pessoa que não tem nem tanta técnica, mas que consegue tocar o coração ali, ou então essa sensibilidade musical do público, né? E isso vindo dele, né, que é um grande master né, da técnica, isso é bem legal, né?
Yes, thank you. Ramon,
Thank you, Renato, for your invitation, for being here with these great guys, great drummers and teachers. Um, Thinking on what you said, I think in musical the development of a drummer, I think there is just some appointments. There are three stages or three plateaus that you have to achieve. First of all, when you start, you have to understand the mechanics of drumsticks and the drumming on your pad. After this, there's a different stage that is apply these techniques, this concept on drum set, thinking musically with musicality, and the highest stage plateau is when you could apply all these tools, these ways of thinking or technically on drums into the music, because all the technique as I and rhythm knowledge and rhythm imaginarium that you achieve in your life have to be applied into the music. The main purpose of playing drums is to apply and be musical. Technically, with technical complexity, or less complex and more fluid, more simple, and but always musical. That's the first part. Could you translate or quer que eu fale?
Se você quiser falar, você
Eu vou-
consegue traduzir eu? Não?
acho que I think I can speak all of this much better in Portuguese. Let me do it for the Brazilian. O que eu disse é que assim, quando a gente começa a tocar, qualquer baterista tem assim alguns passos que a gente tem que desenvolver, que é entender as mecânicas, os procedimentos, os rudimentos básicos na bateria, conseguir fazer isso com as mãos na parte mecânica, colocar isso no instrumento, tocando um ritmo, tentando ser musical. E a parte mais alta é quando você consegue aplicar isso dentro da música, musicalmente, sem que tem aquela fruição da beleza dentro do contexto musical. Você colocar um monte de coisa complicada e estragar a música, porque a música é um contexto. Você tocando bateria, você é uma parte do todo, né? Então, tudo que você aprendeu, seu imaginário rítmico, estudou rudimentos, estudou música indiana, estudou ritmos brasileiros, jazz, você tem que aplicar isso, usar esse imaginário rítmico a favor da música. Foi isso que eu quis dizer.
Ok.
Just one more appointment about the question of Renato is, I think I'm 46 years old, not too old, not too young. I think in the middle. But when I start, we did not have the internet, all this bunch of information, and I think when I start, or guys like Duduka or other older guys, when they start, they doesn't have too much information to produce your drumming, to build your drumming. But today there's a dichotomy of these modern times that we have pretty much information, a word of information on books, internet, and drum teachers, drum mentors, drum coaches, a lot of people on the YouTube and other medias. But there's a lack of curadory. We always need a curator, a guy that will doing some point to some way to us to understand easily this lot of informations. And I think there's a thinking and talking with other guys some time ago. All of us agreed that with this, it's not how can I say? It's not a law, of course. It's just an appointment. But in the past, we have more people with personality playing, because they had to search and look for more information and create your own way of playing. And in these modern times, there's a lot of information, but a lack of personality. Everybody wants to understand and play a lot of complicated stuff or leaks, but without personality. I think, of course, personality is a way during your life you have to develop it during your life. Is a matter of being older and understand more the musical and the life. But I think this is a real dichotomy, a lack of information and more personality on musicians. There's not a law, of course, just my appointment. And today there's a pretty much much more information and lack of personality. That's my, I don't know.
Ok. Português?
Traduzindo, eu tô falando que antigamente as pessoas tinham muito menos informação. Eu já conversando com outros músicos, as pessoas tinham muito menos informação em termos de livros, de discos até, né? A minha geração, eu via o nascimento do YouTube, começando a aparecer uns vídeos e começaram a chegar mais livros, né? E então as pessoas, até mais velhas do que eu via que acabava desenvolvendo. Isso não é uma lei, eu quis dizer que não é uma certeza matemática. Quer dizer que assim, a gente via mais pessoas com personalidade musical que criaram seus caminhos, tendo que fuçar e correr atrás e buscar informações onde não se tinha muito, aqui no Brasil, pelo menos. E hoje em dia tem uma quantidade de informação gigante. Tudo que você imaginar, você põe no YouTube, ela aparece para você. Só que isso falta uma curadoria, que eu acho que é o papel do professor. O professor tem que dar esse caminho, não ditar a regra, mas falar, ó, pense aqui, observe isso, e com o tempo a pessoa vai desenvolvendo uma personalidade. Então, acho que o que eu falei da dicotomia é que tem muita informação e pouca personalidade. Às vezes tinha menos informação e mais personalidade. É só uma ideia para jogar para vocês. It's just an idea that I'm spreading on this hangout, and I'd love to know what you think about it. Thank you.
Perfect. Duduka.
Should the host has
Ok, Duduka.
Oi. Hello.
Ok, estamos te ouvindo agora.
Okay. My background is a little bit different because I was born in Rio de Janeiro in 1951. Luckily, my parents, my mother, my father, mostly my mother, she loved to listen, besides Jobim, João Gilberto, and Dorival Caymmi, Johnny Alf, she loved to listen to jazz. So I grew up, listen to Jerry Mulligan, Louis Armstrong, and Frank Sinatra, Nat King Cole, and many others, Chet Baker. She loved it. And that music, make a big impact on me, and I had a dream, to mix, since that time, to mix like Brazilian music with American jazz. That's what was one of the main reasons that I came to New York in 1975, in the end of 75, when I was 24 years old. But at my time in Brazil, I got my first drums when I was 13 years old. And luckily, the bossa nova, the samba jazz, was really, a lot of people playing. I was young, but I became friends with the great masters, the musicians that paved the way, for me and for many other generations to come, like Renato and everything. So I become friends with what I consider, the masters drumming at that time, like Edson Machado, that was born in 1934. He died in 1990. Dom Romão, Milton Banana, and those are the great masters of Brazilian, and many others, and João Palma. I remember that João Palma was my neighbor. I used to live in Ipanema, and João Palma lived with his family. João Palma is a great drummer that they used to play with Roberto Menescal and later with Sérgio Mendes and Brasil 66. And then, in my opinion, he recorded the best Jobim albums, which is Sunflower, Tide, with Elmir Deodato arrangements, and then, Urubu and Matita Perê with Klaus Ogerman arrangements. Those, for me, are the most creative Jobim albums that I've been listening to that my whole life, and this is fantastic. And João was a very good friend, and his house was a meeting point for all musicians at that time. Raul de Souza, Milton Banana, Dom Romão, a lot of musicians. Tenório Júnior, the piano player, and many, many others. I was a kid. Myself and my brother Miguel, we are friends with João, young brother, Marcos, So we used to go there as a kid and stay and start to listen to Wes Montgomery, to Miles Davis, to Thelonious Monk. Started to listen to Wynton Kelly, So as a kid, so I grew up, and those musicians, great musicians, were an inspiration, And I was very lucky to be able to see them playing live, besides become friends with them, to see them play. And that, since at my time we had in Rio, in São Paulo, they had more, they had one school that you are able to play. I think Zimbo Trio had a school called CLAM, Clube dos Amigos da Música, Club of the Friends of Musicians' Friends, something like that. But in Rio, there's no schools. So everything I learned, by watching, and those great musicians, and try to play, like them at the time. And at the same time, after a while, I said, I need to find my sound, after play, that's a long process to find your own sound, because everybody got information, if you see like Tony Williams or Elvin Jones, everybody has someone, that, for instance, Tony Williams, he get a lot of things from Max Rose, from Roy Haynes. You have influence, and then you learn, and you transform that in your own way. You start with that learning experience, you start to find your own sound, your way to express yourself. And then I moved to New York, in 75, and with a dream of playing with American musicians. And I was very lucky to play with some people that they are my idols in Brazil, like Jerry Mulligan, Phil Woods, Eddie Gomes. So I was very lucky to play, record, and travel with those great musicians, and many others. I don't want to be, talking about names, but I was very lucky to do that, and to mix, the culture of Brazilian, with American jazz, and I'm doing that is not, it doesn't have an end, You keep learning every day you play. You keep learning and developing, that blend, what we call samba jazz or Brazilian jazz, whatever. And it's been a great experience. I remember in the early '80s, a dear friend of mine, the co-author of the book, Brazilian Rhythms for Drum Set, Bob Winner. he said, "Hey, Duduka, you gotta teach at Drummers Collective." It was a drum school. They still had, but it was great at the time on 6th Avenue at the time, between 14th and 15th Street. And you gotta play. I said, Bob, I never thought in my life, I never, had a formal education, and I don't read music. I'm not gonna teach. No, you gotta teach. You gotta teach. He stayed like years asking for me, Duduka. And then I was insecure. And I remember the first time I taught there, you know, I brought with me a percussion player. I think it was Ciro Batista, a great friend in percussion, or Guilherme Franco, also the late Guilherme Franco. And then because, to help to understand the interaction between drums and percussion, and I started to like the idea of teaching. And after a few sessions with the percussion, I decided to teach alone, just drums alone. And it was a great learning experience. I taught there from 1984 to until my second daughter born was 98, to 84 to 2000. And was great because the students ask me, what do you do with your right hand? What do you do with your left hand? I said, I don't know. I never stopped to think, because I did everything with intuition. I never analyze. I'm not a kind of guy that analyze. I absorb the information, but maybe in my subconscious I can analyze, but not consciously. I don't analyze. So they start to ask, what do you do with your left hand? What do you do with the hi-hat and this? So I start to learn. I start to have more knowledge of what I was doing. I never thought, what I did with the left hand, with the right hand. And then they ask me those questions. And then I show them patterns, different patterns. And sometimes they mix pattern number 1, for instance, with pattern number 2, and come out with another pattern that sounds better, than the two that I show them. They mix the right hand of one pattern with the, whatever. They mix the pattern. I said, wow, that sounds great. So I started to learn by teaching. I started to learn, and it was a great experience. But after 16 years, sometimes I teach, when I go on the road, with my friends. I do some master class and things like that. But basically, I stopped a little bit because I was going a little bit nuts, after 16 years. I started to, said, I think I did enough, And, but it was a great experience. And then after that, just playing with Americans, with Brazilian musicians, has a musician special that I play a lot with him since 1980. He's a dear old friend of mine and one of the creators of samba jazz, the great piano player Dom Salvador, Dom Salvador. Huh? And I just talked to him yesterday. He's 82 years old. And when I was a kid in Rio, I used to put his albums, like your Rio 65 trio with the great Edson Machado and Sérgio Barroso. And I used to play. My way to learn was playing together also with the albums, all those albums at that time, of the great Milton Banana. And then after, from another generation, Ayrton Moreira, the great Ayrton. And from the same generation, a little older than Edson, just a little, Dom Romão. So that was my way to play. And then 30 years later or so, I came to New York, and the drummer, Dom Salvador drummer, wasn't able to make the gig. He knew I was around. The great Portinho wasn't able. He was a great drummer and a great friend. he wasn't able to do the gig, and so Dom Salvador called me. That was 1980. And then we started playing together, and we never stopped playing together. And the last gig that we did was to celebrate the 50 years of the Rio 65 trio. And we did a concert. The original bass player, Sérgio Barroso, he came from Brazil. And I played drums, like with the guys that I learned how to play when I was living in Rio. I was a drummer. We did at Carnegie Hall. And we did an album, a live album there. Dom Salvador, live at Carnegie Hall, the 50 years of Rio 65 trio. And was a blast, like 30, 40 years later, to do something like that, He is a guy that every time we play together, I learn a lot. Also, with the great late Claudio Roditi, I learn a lot. He's a dear friend, beloved friend. One of the things I was thinking now, one of the things that is good to get old, and is part of life, and you get more mature. You start to many things that you used to do. You start to filter more the things, and maybe you start to play more simple, way. I think you start to, it's good. But the thing that I don't like is see many of my friends, they gone, they change, they pass to another life, That's the part that I don't like, to my friends that I play. Now, for instance, I'm playing Celebrate, like I said, my birthday at This Club, my 71st, and 3 of the musicians that used to play in the band, they're not with us anymore. Like Vic Juris, the guitar player, is not with us. Claudio Roditi is not with us. And George Maras is not with us anymore. So that's a little bit, it's part of life. We need to accept. But it's a little, sometimes you go to a stage and then you look around and say, oh, shit, man, those guys, they were here a few years ago and they're no longer here. I know we need to accept this part of life, but, it's, but luckily I had the chance and the privilege to work with those guys and to learn a lot from them. And I think music is an endless learning experience. You learn and you learn and you learn. And one thing that keeps us alive, I'm talking about me, but I believe all my friends, they agree, like in 2020, we have the pandemic, the COVID-19, and all the gigs got canceled. All the gigs. 2021 was a little better, and then a little. Now seems like start to open up. But what I did in 2020 to keep my sanity, because all the gigs got canceled, I started to think about a project, because I love to practice every day when I can. I do love to practice every day. I think the drums are my best friends in the sense that they know all my strong parts as they know my weak parts as well. So it's something that when I sit on the drums and play, after playing, I feel like a lot of problems that I have, anxiety or any problem, they much better. It feels much better after playing. And I'm talking a lot. And that's it. Let's keep going. And it's so wonderful to see, for instance, a new generation like Renato Rocha, and playing so well, and and carrying the legacy. Not he came from a great family, He has his father is a musician.
Yeah.
His two brothers are fantastic. O Rafael.
Rafael e Roger.
O Rafael. And I had the privilege to play with Rafael when I was in Rio before the pandemic, you know, before COVID. I think was 2019, if I'm not wrong. And Rafael is one of the best trombone players I ever played. You know, he's an amazing musician. He's a fantastic arranger also. And Renato and Rafael and his other brother. What's the name of the other brother, Renato?
33.
Qual é o nome do seu irmão?
O Rafael Rocha e Roger Rocha.
O Rafael e o Roger que toca saxofone. Roger's played the saxophone. They have a group, and I highly recommend to everyone here, all the drummers. When I heard the group called Brasilidade Geral. Brasilidade Geral. Brasilidade, maybe we should spell that, you know. It's like Brazil with the S, BRASILIDADE, Geral, GERAL, Brasilidade Geral. And man, it's a fantastic. They have, you can check them on YouTube. And Renato is playing his ass off. Everybody's playing. It's a piano-less band. It's just, and his brothers, you know, they arranged for how many horns? The 7 horns? Quantos sopro? 6. 6 horns, and the sound is amazing. And they did shows with Rosa Passos, with Ivan Lins, and by themselves too. So check it out. It's a great, that's an inspiration, you know, to see. I'm not trying to sound like a father here, but it's an inspiration to see like young, very talented musicians carrying the legacy, like Renato, like, and I'm not going to mention any names because just Renato, because you miss, you know, when you mention names, you always miss someone, and have very good young generation drummers in Brazil. And but the ones that I learned at my time was, like I said, Edson Machado. That was my main inspiration. And then Dom Romão, Milton Banana, those guys were probably the main inspiration that I had, you know. And Elvin Jones, you know. And in the American side, Elvin Jones. I mean, I love Philly Jones, Roy Haynes, you know, but Elvin Jones was the guy that, and I met him one time, and it was amazing. We had beer together, you know, and we hang together in the Lionel Hampton Jazz Festival. He heard me playing, and then I heard him. He hugged me so strong, he almost broke my back. You know, I was very skinny then. So, okay. Okay. Oi.
Eu tinha uma outra pergunta, mas eu vou deixar para depois para a terceira pergunta. Já vou complementar lá para você.
Outra pergunta?
Eu vou deixar uma pergunta porque vou falar em inglês. Our second question, we talk about a lot, and I have other questions for everybody, each one here. About I will start with Duduka.
Okay.
And Pat. Duduka, depois a Luísa, se puder. Duduka, como se comportar em diferentes estilos, tecnicamente, você que trabalhou com artistas diferentes, como você se comporta? Você tem que entender se você se comporta como trio, se comporta como cantora, tendo a técnica na mão, ou podendo fazer, vamos dizer assim, muito com a técnica, ou extrair mais, assim, com mais habilidade. Como colocar, assim, como você coloca a coisa exata para a música? Eu falo isso porque meu irmão arranjador tocou com você uma vez, ele falou, é incrível como o Duduka acompanha muito bem o ambiente musical dos solos, e como isso funciona muito bem, assim, e deixa confortável. Como é que você faz essa aplicação de deixar os solistas confortáveis? Porque o baterista ele é responsável por todos os climas. E é interessante a gente ouvir do Peter, do Klaus, do Ramon também, sobre essa questão. Como você...
Vem cá, é bom traduzir, né?
Tá. Aloysio.
Aloysio, quer
Okay.
traduzir?
Okay. Renato is asking all of you guys, Klaus, Peter, Ramon, and Duduka, because one of Renato's brother had the experience of playing with Duduka, and which one was it, Renato? Rafael. And Rafael told Renato that it was a great pleasure to play with Duduka because Duduka can make everything easier for them to play. And then Renato was asking how Duduka sees the different formation of the bands when he plays with a singer, with a big band, or someone else. How do you adapt the drum to the singer or to the band? Because the drummer creates the climate, yeah, it sets all the situation for the band. Okay.
Well, I think, when you play instrumental music is one thing. When you play with a singer, and I'm married to a singer, and it's different. And I used to play with a singer for a long time, Astrid Gilberto, and it's a completely different way to approach the drums, and it's good to know the lyrics, even though I don't know the words of some lyrics, but I know the sound of the lyrics, So, and you try to fit in. When you play instrumental music, I think, some drummers, they want to impose, for instance, someone is soloing and they want to impose their own way, And I think when someone is solo, you should support the soloist. And also, if you have the opportunity, you suggest ideas. But, it should be a conversation. You can't, talk over. If the guy is soloing and you keep, get it in the way of the soloist, then it's a mess. So you should support, and when you think it's appropriate, you suggest ideas and try to have a conversation. It's like to have a conversation. And it's not like one says either my way or the highway, It should be, and listen, and try to play as music as you can. I feel very flattered that Rafael, like the way he enjoy playing. I love playing with him. And I'm looking forward to do it again when this pandemic, when the things got better. I think they are getting better. And I'm looking forward to play again. It was a blast to play. And but that's it. It's more like a conversation. Listen what the soloist is doing and try to contribute to enhance whatever the soloist is doing, and have a dialogue, a conversation. So that's what I think. And
Okay.
Ok.
Peter.
Fazendo a tradução rápida
Ok,
aqui.
ok.
Você quer falar, Renato?
Não, pode
Ok.
dizer.
Ok, que o Duduka estava falando, né, Dudu? Que
Oi.
você é diferente se tocar como uma cantora e uma música instrumental, né? Tanto você foi casado com a Astrid Gilberto muitos anos.
Não fui casado com ela. Eu sou casado com a Maúcha. Eu toquei com a Astrid. Não me bota, senão vou ficar... vai ser problemático.
Fazendo confusão. Então, você falou, o principal é que você tem que fazer, né? Tem muitos bateristas que querem se impor na banda, né? E que isso não é um caminho mais adequado, né? Que você tem que manter uma conversação ali com os outros
Isso,
músicos,
um
né?
diálogo,
O diálogo, né? E deixar cada um ali colocar a sua parte, né? Com sensibilidade e humildade aí, né?
Mas ao mesmo tempo você tem que mostrar segurança, mas sem querer impor. Uma das pessoas mais difíceis que eu tem muita coisa, mas às vezes que eu toquei com o Tom Jobim, Antônio Carlos Jobim, entendi diferente porque o Antônio Carlos Jobim é uma pessoa tão sensível e a bateria ficava muito perto. Você tem que tocar mostrando a segurança, mas ao mesmo tempo, se você quiser forçar, ele entende? Eu tive também o privilégio, quando eu mudei para Nova York, o João Gilberto estava morando em Nova York. Então, conheci o João Gilberto aqui e a gente ficou muito chapa, ficamos muito amigos. Então, eu ia na casa, no hotel, ele sempre morava no hotel, no Gramercy Park, eu ia lá, a gente ficava tocando de vassourinha e tal, e ele tocando violão, cantando. Agora, tem que prestar só atenção do violão. Se você prestasse atenção na voz, porque a voz dele fica... O violão é um metrônomo, mas a voz fica indo e voltando, indo e voltando. Maybe I should talk in English so everybody understands. I said that it's difficult. One of the most difficult work that I had, for instance, was playing with Jobim. You know, the times that I play with Jobim, because he's super sensitive. At the same time, you need to show that you're secure in whatever you're doing. You can't impose, you can't force, or he would, you know. So be there and showing that you are there for him, but don't try to impose your way, you know, or he. And also was telling that when I moved to New York, I was very lucky to a friend of mine, Alfredo Cardim, great piano player, he was living in New York. He introduced me to João Gilberto, the guitar player. We become friends, and then I used to go. He always lives in hotels, you know. I used to go to his hotel, Gramercy Park Hotel, and he used to come to my house. I used to live in the West Village, and I used to play with him with the brushes, you know, so quiet, you know. And, you know, if I need to just listen to the guitar, his guitar, because his guitar is a metronome. And because his voice, it goes back and forward, and back and forth. It's like a pendulum. But the guitar, so I need to listen just to play with the guitar, or I would get lost. That was a great experience to have a chance to play with those masters, you know. Those guys, they the grand masters, you know. And to hear them and to have the opportunity to play with them is wow. So very lucky, and very thankful to everything.
Okay.
Peter?
Hã? Sorry.
Acho que eu acabei.
Quem é agora, Renato? Peter. Hi, Peter. Can you talk a little bit about this question?
Is Peter?
Others.
Yes.
There we go.
Oh.
We're talking about playing with others. Everything Duduka just said was perfect. I want to add also, I started teaching at the Drummers Collective, and Duduka was one of the people that I would corner in the hall and ask dumb questions to. And he was such a gracious man to me. You know, I'm asking these dumb questions that I was always curious about. You know, I just didn't have an answer to. And he would just look at me and he would give me the best answer. And then I would go see him play at the coffee shop or other little affordable gigs that I could, you know, pay my way into. And all the answers that all the questions that I asked were answered there as well. So thank you very much, Duduka.
Thank you. We go back a long way, Peter.
Yeah.
We go back a long way. My goodness.
Yeah. I was sad the day that I heard you weren't going to be at school anymore. a sad day for me. It's like, it's a drag. It's like you, and there's some others like Mike Clark. I used to, hang
Mike
out with
Clark.
him a lot, and just other guys. Everybody, Michael Lauren, who
Michael Lawrence is in
talked to
Portugal.
him this past week, 2 days ago. I talked to him for an hour. So
He's a great guy. We used to hang a lot together.
Yeah, beautiful man.
Yeah.
So
we used to have a lot of beers together with Michael.
yeah, I should ask
after
you to go to the
teaching,
bar back in the day. I missed that opportunity. So we'll have to make up for lost time when COVID. So I agree with everything you just said about playing Duduka. And the thing that I'll add to that is, if we don't know what the bass player's doing, or we don't know what the piano player's doing, or we don't know what the guitar player's doing, or the singer or the horn player, then we're not going to know how to have a conversation with these people. And I think that playing music with people is a lot like meeting somebody and trying to talk to them and finding common ground and common words to say to each other, so it's not awkward or you don't make them mad at you right away. And so I learned about, and I'm still trying to learn how to play with other people to this day, but I think I learned a lot when I just broke apart recordings and listened to Miles Davis with Paul Chambers, and then listening to Miles Davis with Ron Carter and hearing how music progressed. Next is Dave Holland. It's like a sequence. If you listen to those drummers, it would be Philly Joe, Jimmy Cobb, Tony Williams, Jack DeJohnette. There's a language there. Wynton Kelly and Red Garland go to Herbie Hancock, which goes to Chick Corea and Keith Jarrett. It's like, this is the common ground with all that is Miles Davis.
And Bill Evans on Kind of Blue.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's
we
right.
have-
That's completely right.
Guys, we have a comment here from Daniel Gon.
Yes.
So if you keep talking about Drummers Collective teachers, I'm going to cry.
Yes, for sure. But it's finding what they do in relation to the drums. You could hear the bass player in the drum relationship, the bass player in the trio rhythm section relationship, a soloist or a singer in relation to the band. And until you could really speak with all those people musically, it's hard to make music. I think drummers are dumb. I say I'm a dumb drummer too. I'm trying to work my way out of this condition by learning more about piano and increase my listening and all that. But I find that my bass player friends know as much drums as I do, but I don't know as much bass as they do. My piano player friends know as much drums as I do, but I don't know as much harmony as they do. And, playing the drums, when we hear harmony change, it's like our heads blow off. It's like, pow. So, the more that we understand that, I think the more effective we can be in a band. So it takes listening not to the drummer as much as around the drums. And then how does a great drummer react? We could spend a year listening to major records of just how the drummer reacts to what they hear. So I don't want to talk too much.
I just have one thing to add, if I may. I was in the 70s. I was trying, when talking to João Gilberto, and my whole, I was preoccupied. I said, I need to listen more to the piano, more to the bass, and more this, more that. And João Gilberto, one time, he told me, you got to listen to yourself first. I said, my God, that goes against, I thought at the time. It took me a few years to understand. I said, my God, that goes against everything I'm thinking, because I'm worried about, not worried, I want to hear the piano, I want to hear the bass. But what João Gilberto taught me, is like the same principle of to love each other person. You need to love yourself first. You can't love somebody else if you don't love yourself first. You're not able to know what love is. By listen to yourself carefully when you're playing, everything that's surrounding you you're gonna listen naturally. You're gonna listen to that because you're aware, you're conscious of what you're doing. So everything is gonna come natural to you. It took a few years to understand that. It's not an ego trip. It's like by listening to what you're doing, other things gonna come naturally. Everything that the other players that you playing with, it's gonna come. It seems odd, but I think that's true. And then naturally, you don't need to think about that. It's some things that come naturally. How to react and how to have the conversation. The hard thing for us musicians, drummers, and for every musician, is to leave we have a bag of things that we know how to do, that we practice, and a lot of things that we know how to do. And sometimes, we take that to the gig. And the best thing is forget about that, leave that home and leave, if you can, leave your ego home and then come to the gig and be open to, it's very difficult, and I tell you, I still learning, and I hope to learn and learn more, to just open your heart and open your mind and see what that situation, how you're going to react to the situation, instead of have that bag of tricks that you're already going to apply to the situation. Preconceived idea, so.
Ok, deixa eu traduzir rapidamente aqui um pouquinho, só a ideia aqui, que o Peter falou aí que nessa conversa toda dos instrumentos aí, o baterista tem que saber buscar entender dos outros instrumentos também, né? Da harmonia, do piano, saber o que o baixo está fazendo, que escala que ele está indo. O baterista tem que buscar essa parte musical aí para poder entender e manter essa conversa. E o Duduka deu um exemplo aí de que tocando com o João Gilberto, o João falou com ele assim, o Duduka perguntou, eu preciso ouvir um pouco mais do piano, do baixo e tal. E o João Gilberto falou, primeiro escute você tocando aí, né? Escute o que você está fazendo. E aí é um exemplo, né, de que a gente tem que, quando vai para uma gig, né, tem que deixar o ego em casa, né? E tem que ouvir todos ali e se deixar ouvir também, né?
Exato, Basicamente é isso, né? É difícil, it's hard, but we're learning, we're learning all the time. That's the important thing.
Vou passar para o Klaus.
Yes, Klaus, can you add something for us, please?
Oh, anytime. Sure. I mean, a lot of true things have been said, and I will try to not make it double here in that case. I like the idea of what Pete just said about the conversation that you're having with people. And as you make that conversation and as you put the parts together, I think it's also important to dare to be yourself. And not hide in some dark corner of the stage. I mean, people have hired you, so you make a musical statement, and that also goes to say, I mean, dare to make that statement, and it's not about putting yourself in the forefront of things and over exaggerating all kinds of stuff, but dare to make a statement. And with regards to how you listen and react to what happens around you on the stage, there may also, I mean, it's always difficult to tell if there's an ultimate wrong or right, if there's an absolute do or don't in how you have this musical conversation, because to some degree it's also a little bit like reading the crystal ball. I mean, soloist A may totally like it if you play that high energy stuff behind the soloist, and soloist B might be exactly the opposite. So reading the people to some degree is just as what happens in a real conversation. You also kind of read the people and you think, that guy he's ticking so and so, he's ticking so and so, and you are trying to still leave your trademark, your footprint inside the music, without hiding who you are, and still supporting the other person as good as you can. And what I also fully agree with what Duduka said. We all have our bag of things that we practice, and we take them to the gig, and the art comes in when we when we just don't do that. And it ultimately reminded me of something that Chapin said every time around, which was like, I mean, practice in front of the mirror, do all these crazy things, but when you go on stage, forget you know me. Those were the words I remember crystal clear. And yeah, so that's my humble 5 cents on it. And I mean, there's more to be said about it, but I hope that kind of complements still a little bit what has already been said about that.
Yeah, great. No,
Sounds great, yeah.
yeah.
I like a lot.
Ok, então o Klaus aí estava contribuindo aí, falando que o baterista e os músicos têm que se educar, né, ouvir os outros músicos, né, quando estão no palco, mas sem também se esconder, tem que se atrever a ser você mesmo, a mostrar o que você é, o que você tem para mostrar musicalmente, né, sem passar por cima de ninguém, mas também sem se esconder muito ali. Você tem que manter ali, né? Mostrar o que você tem, mas contribuindo para o grupo também, né? E deu um exemplo da frase aí do Jim Chapin, né? Que, puxando um pouco o que o Duduka falou aí, né? Que você tem que levar para quando a gente vai tocar, a gente leva aquele tanto de coisa lá para carregar para gig, mas o importante esqueça. Como é que é a frase mesmo? Quem lembra aí? What's the sentence, Klaus?
Não, praticar. O Klaus falou praticar em frente a um espelho, qualquer coisa, mas quando você vai para o trabalho, você esquece que você é você. Então, fica aberto para tocar o que a situação musical vai, pedir para você tocar. Exatamente. Vai, entende?
Interessante isso. O Pat Metheny fala assim, deixa o estudante em casa e leva o ouvinte, né?
Isso aí é bom,
né?
No, that's good. You know, guys, that's word to translate. Hein, Luiz? Quer traduzir essa?
Yeah, yes. Klaus and Peter, Renato just said that Pat Metheny has a sentence, and he says, leave the student at home and bring yourself. Yeah? Bring the musician. Is that
No. It's the opposite.
The opposite?
Não é, Renato? Como é que você falou?
Deixa o estudante em casa e leve o ouvinte para o show.
Leave the student home and bring to the show the listener. You know?
Yes.
That's what Pat said. He's so amazing musician and so intelligent. You know, he's amazing. I'm a big fan of him.
Yeah.
You know, fantastic.
Ramon.
My micro. Yes. No. Yes, I agreed 100% with all of these guys, these great guys, and I'm thinking there are some years that I'm thinking, what's the limit point of being yourself and just serve the music with the band ask you to do. For example, I've been playing with some Brazilian bands and some Brazilian singers, and of course my group. But when I play with Fala Mansa, there's a band of Brazilian band that I play with, and Luisa Posse or other singers. I'm always try to be almost invisible, Just do the things that the song ask me to do, but just with time and feeling comfortable with the group and the arrangements. If we have to have the wisdom of knowing what's the limit point of do yourself playing your stuffs musically, or just play the what the music, what the song ask us. In my case, I'm always trying to be invisible and just add some ideas and serve to the music. But there are some situations when you start to feel more mature, and that sometimes people invited you to do your stuff. Oh, Ramon, came here and do your stuff, and add some musical ideas to this song. So in these situations, I'm always trying to add and share some ideas, but never forgetting the first place that is music, is the song, is the melody and the voice. If with a band with singer, but there's a really interesting point is when we go to the stage, we have to forget and leave all the studies, all the technical stuffs at home, and trying to apply try to serve to the music. And just if you have the opportunity, if people ask you, yes, your solo or your time, feel more comfortable on this A part or on this solo, and be yourself. But I'm always trying to, most of all, serve to the music. That's my way of thinking.
I agree. This so is very well said. I believe that the music is here. You know, the music is on the top, and
Yeah,
we are here to serve the music. It's
yeah,
not the opposite. We can't use the music to serve ourselves. We
yeah,
need we here to serve the music. You know, to
yeah,
make the music sound good. If some people are the other way around, they get the song and they say, "Oh, I'm gonna show up everything I know. I'm gonna do some flashy things. I'm gonna show, you know," and they're not serving the music. You know, it's just
yeah,
an ego trip. You know.
yeah.
So
I agree.
if you go play with the sense that you're here to serve the music, uh, the music is something I believe sacred. So we're here to serve. You
Yeah,
know,
for me
and
too.
I
Can I add one more thing?
Yes,
It's a
yes,
little darker in context, but I also think that we have to be realists, and we're not always going to make everybody happy that we play with. We're not always
that's
going
right.
to be everybody's favorite drummer. And if we
Yes.
look at that in a non-emotional way, which is almost impossible for most of us most of the time, and we could learn how we could be better in that situation, we probably would walk away feeling like, or we would walk away learning something from it. And so if we just realize we're not going to make everyone happy, but we could learn from it, we'll be a better musician as a result.
That's right. I think that's a great point. You know,
yeah.
one thing I need to tell, I'm talking by cell, you know, and I have a plug the headphone, and it's saying that it's going to the red. So I might disappear at one point. So no, I'm not kidding, because my computer, the old one is delayed, you know, and the new one, I don't know how to operate still.
Okay.
You know, sorry. So I might go out. This is very small red. So
Okay.
okay.
Okay. Just come back. Just join. Jump in when you're ready.
Yeah.
Well, I need to recharge. I need to recharge. You know.
Okay.
Uh, uh, our time is gone, yeah, you know, Barry. But I would have more one question, but everybody have a time more for my one question. For my
I'm,
one question,
I'm okay. I'm okay. I don't
I'm
know.
okay too.
okay, more one, okay. Um, Eu ask in Portuguese, and Aloysio, please translate. Sobre criatividade, só para a gente fechar o assunto, sabemos que a criatividade sobre a bateria depende de uma boa técnica, né, em muitos dos casos. Como é possível equilibrar quando precisamos de criatividade e uma técnica apurada, para isso não comprometer o arranjo da música ou mesmo a música que a gente faz?
Okay, here we go. Renato is asking that we know that creativity and technique are very important, and how we make the balance so they can join together and not compromise the musical arrangement when playing. Quem vai primeiro, Renato?
Quem?
Peter, please.
Oh, okay. You know, I think creativity is like the missing link quite often in music. We could learn many things, but it's how do you make it your own? How do you make it part of the music? I think these parts of it are creativity. And I think we could practice creativity just like we practice patterns. One thing I do with my students, and I do the same thing when I'm learning something new, is for example, if I have a student and they're learning some jazz comping or some ghost note patterns, playing some groove thing, I teach them a little bit, and then I say, okay, do you have it memorized? We have to know it before we can be creative. If we're reading it from a book, we're not going to be very creative, I don't think. So do you know it, first of all? And then how about taking a little amount of material that the student knows and play with it? And I always say the same thing to myself, and I say the same thing to my students. Feel free to sound bad. You don't have to sound good, just use it. It's like a child learning how to walk. They stand up and fall down, and then stand up again and walk a little more, and then fall down again. So I think that taking a small amount of things and having the student explore them. And if some students, they already did it. They can't help themselves because they know the process of that somehow. Other students are scared to do it. Those are the ones I'll sit in front of and just say, play for me right now. Sound bad. Show me how you would put it together. And I make them do it. And at the end, everybody says the same thing. I ask them, was that bad? They're like, no, it wasn't bad at all. It was actually fun. So this opens the door for them to be creative themselves. Once they do that, the door eventually gets open for them to be more creative with other people. I think creativity has to be developed, just like technique or language of music. All these things, these are the three things. It's like the language of music, how you do it, the technique of music, and then encouraging creativity along with listening to the music. Those all come together as one package to me. Okay, I've talked enough.
Ok, great. Ele estava falando que para ele a criatividade, né, e a técnica tem que andar junto, como todos sabem, mas que também ele vê que os alunos, assim, ele fala muito para os alunos que não podem se preocupar também a não só acerto, né, a muito ficar ali naquela obsessão de hit the nail, exatamente, né? Então você tem que construir, né, abrir as portas para a criatividade. Você estuda a técnica, mas você abre a porta para a criatividade também. E para você desenvolver esse caminho, né, tem que ser junto. Não adianta ficar também com uma autocrítica muito elevada e você tem que mostrar, você tem que tocar e tem que errar também, né? Mais alguma coisa, gente?
I think I believe that some musicians, they are very technical, and some other, they like creative. Technique, something that it can be used to express yourself, whatever instrument you play. And but some guys, they very creative, and maybe they lack in technique, and some others, they have a lot of technique and they lack in creativity. So to find that balance is very challenging. It takes a lifetime to, so you need to study to have the tools, to have the ability to develop your ideas and be creative. I think.
Ok, great, Duduka. O Duduka está falando aí que muitos bateristas são mais técnicos, né, e têm menos criatividade, outros são muito criativos e têm um pouco menos de técnica, mas que ele acha que para a gente chegar nesse equilíbrio é um longo caminho na vida aí, né, um desafio muito longo, que você tem que juntar todas as ferramentas técnicas e ter a sensibilidade para fazer os dois juntos aí. Isso aí é ao longo do tempo. Não dá para a gente pegar isso aí, 5 aulinhas no YouTube.
The other thing that just gonna be probably my telephone is gonna die. The last thing I would like to say, sorry. The last thing I would like to say is that when I used to teach with Peter at Drummers Collective, I used to ask my students, to record themselves playing, and try to play everything in the same level. I had bass drum, cymbals, snare, and all the drums in the same level, the same way you practice piano. Because by doing that, and when you play everything in the same level, by doing that, when you have the control to do that, you also have the control, have the ability to play dynamics much better. Because you can accentuate the bass drum or the snare or the floor tone or the hi-hat or the cymbal, because you're studying everything in trying to make the same level, all parts of the drums, So I think that's important to help you to play dynamics whenever you want to play the dynamics. That's a kind of, I recommend that for the students. I used to, when I used to teach, to record themselves,
Great. O Duduka estava falando aí que quando lecionava lá na Drummers Collective, né, sempre aconselhava os alunos a gravarem, né, Duduka, o estudo, né, gravar ali e procurar tocar todas as peças no mesmo nível, né? Para você poder,
no mesmo volume.
Para você aí poder desenvolver a dinâmica, né? Porque quando você precisar, para o chimbal não ficar numa altura, né? Um tom numa outra, o surdo na outra, o boom na outra, a caixa, né? Para você poder manter e fazer uma dinâmica geral, né? E aí se gravar para poder isso. Né?
Isso. Eu acho que é bom, porque é difícil, não é? It's difficult, when you play the drums, because the drums so many things, And when you play, and you said, I don't want to hear the bass drum too loud, I don't want to hear this, whatever, and play everything in one smooth way, I think it can be helpful to have more control over the instrument, I believe. Guys,
okay.
I think I'm going because the thing is dying here. I just want to say thank you, Aloysio. Thank you, my friend, and I'm a big fan of yours, Renato Rocha, and your family too, and all my other friends, thank you so much, Ramon, Carl, and Peter, and I wish you all the best, and Aloysio, I wish all the best to you, and thank you so much for inviting me to this wonderful conversation, and next time I'm going to be more prepared technologic, to be until the end. So,
thank you, Duduka.
Let's
listen, and Klaus and Ramon to finish our conversation, please. Klaus, can you resume me?
Okay, for sure. I'll try to be short and sweet. First of all, I think creativity is an act of rebellion. Think about that, because I mean, when you're creative, that usually means you do something in the way it hasn't been done before. And so I think creativity a lot of times is born out of a lack of skill, a lack of technique, a lack of coordination. And people, when their musical imagination is strong enough, they still find ways to be so creative that they can overcome these obstacles. So I think creativity is really some sort of an act of rebellion. It means, of course, you learn the rules, you learn your craft, and you learn your techniques, and you learn harmony, you learn your rudiments, you learn all of that. You learn the rules, you apply them, and at a certain point, you actually will have to forget them, and you just apply them in the most natural way, as I don't think towards any rules of grammar when I'm speaking. Nobody does that. It's you just speak, you pick your words, you know what you want to say, and you compose your words in the most natural way. And I think with creativity it's somewhat the same. And I mean, it's it's an act of rebellion, and being given a couple of little tools, and then trying to, okay, what can I do out of that, and trying to think out of the box, and trying to go different avenues, and trying something that has not been done before, from a standpoint of what if. And that standpoint should include overcoming the fear of mistakes, and that sort of logs into what Pete has been saying, like dare to sound like shit, right? Because I mean, ultimately, only when you dare to not sound good, you will find ways to explore something new, something that you did not do before, something that has not been said before, something which is possibly considered as some addition to the conversation, which really has some extra value and is not just something that has already been said before. Yep.
Well said. Well said. Very good.
Yes.
Great, great. O Peter estava falando aí que para ele a criatividade é um ato de explosão, de rebelião, né? Você não pode ficar muito preso também. Você tem que aprender a técnica, tem que dominar a técnica, tem que aplicar, utilizar, mas você também tem que deixar fluir, né? Tem que ser natural, você tem que deixar vir aquela pulsão de dentro, assim, que vai te levar para a música, né? Sem amarras, sem repressão. Dominando a técnica, naturalmente vai vir a criatividade. Isso aí tem que ser pensado assim. Não dá para ficar muito restrito ali na caixinha. Você tem que go out of the box, né? Não dá para ficar muito preso ali o tempo todo.
And there's one little thing that I'd still like to add. It's really not a lot of talk here, but at times being creative or getting yourself into that status of being creative can be supported when you are really bored by doing what you actually just have been doing all of the time. So being bored is a lot of times a great father or mother or both for your creativity, because you just hate yourself because of the sound, the way you sound, and you just feel, oh boy, I played that fill again, I played that groove again, I did it once again. Let me look into something different, and I don't even care if it completely sucks, as long as it is something different.
Yeah, that's right. It takes a lot of courage to do that, to go and expose yourself, and you don't know if you're going to sound good, if not going to sound good. It takes a lot of courage, and I respect that a lot.
Yes.
Ramon,
Well said, Klaus.
Deixa eu pegar um gancho aqui no que o Klaus falou. juntando, e também com o que o Duduka falou, que eu achei muito, muito interessante, né? A gente fechar esse ciclo e eu também trago só um elemento, que é a questão da espontaneidade, né? E você trouxeram a questão da criatividade, né? Que ela surge, se desenvolve. Duduka trouxe o ponto de vista muito legal, mas vou trazer um pouco da espontaneidade, que eu acho que está ligado ao lance da criatividade, né, aquela coisa que vocês falaram de ser você, né, seja você, do jeito que você toca, né, e isso vai se moldando. Fala para mim sua visão, só para a gente complementar, isso dentro da visão que o Klaus trouxe e o Duduka trouxe, colocando a espontaneidade. Você é uma pessoa, um baterista muito técnico, também acompanha muito bem, assim, toca pra caramba, e eu sou um fã do seu trabalho, assim, também. E como funciona para você, assim, como você vê essas questões que foram trazidas aqui, que junta outros elementos, né? A gente precisa de tantos elementos, uma hora a criatividade, uma hora ser mais técnico, mais se moldar dentro do trabalho que a gente faz, e como isso, como funciona para você, como você equilibra isso tudo assim dentro da sua visão, quando você parte para um trabalho ou parte para um ensino.
My think is really going. Before I go, I think last thing, we never talk about intuition. It's very important, the intuition, when you go play with people that you didn't play before. To open your intuition, to open the channels of intuition so you can receive what's coming to you and have the intuition to go one way or the other way, you know, to make a beautiful music, you know.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, só traduzir o que o Renato falou aí, é que o Renato was saying, Peter and Klaus, that to be spontaneous at the same time with the creativity and the technique, how spontaneity can come together. And he asked Ramon how he combines everything.
Yes. Thank you for this asking, Renato. On these things, I'm always there's a long time that I've been looking for being myself and trying to be a little bit heterodox, not too much orthodox with the traditional techniques. Yes, of course, I still need to learn more. Is this why I'm sometime I asked to Klaus to touch me a little bit of the traditional and the great techniques that he has. And by the way, this book is amazing. Thank you. But I'm always I've been trying to find some new way, not new, but my approach to with some techniques. And first time as a practice time at home and my drums and my practice pad. And in certain time, I realized that I could apply this type of techniques in certain types of music and genres, but I'm always with asking for the permission of the music at all. Trying to respect all the musicians and the song and the singer and the group and the soloist. But for this, how to you asked me how to mix this, how to blend it. The idea is I think on this way we have to have a decoder inside us, a good sense that and use these techniques more traditional techniques or these techniques that I've been working on. But decoding these ideas and putting into the musical sense. Not don't forgetting to be musical and not playing. There are a lot of notes or a lot of complex stuffs. Just by this, just for playing complex, but trying to use these tools as ideas, as a imaginarium of possibilities that you could apply on some songs. Of course, when I play with a singer, with a band, very traditional, I want use a lot of notes and a lot of drumsticks. I try to be simple, but sometimes, as Klaus said, I'm almost always feeling bored with that song again. One more travel, one more gig with the same song. And I started to work on this different ways, different paths to try to be musical and innovative or creative. That's my challenging in actually. I'm trying to use all this approach, a little bit different approach on drums, but never forgetting the music and always respecting the people that I play with. That's the idea. Have an app, technique decoder inside us, and no, this is too much. This is okay. Try to translate music and put together music and techniques for the music.
Ok.
That's it.
Traduzir?
Tu quer traduzir, Ramon?
Translating myself.
How to translate this? How to translate this?
Traduzindo o que eu disse, é só que você deve. Eu penso assim, a minha visão é que a gente tem que ter um decodificador assim do que você estuda. Claro, você tem que estudar de tudo. Quanto mais informação você tiver, melhor, né? De vários mundos rítmicos, né? Que eu ainda preciso aprender muito. Até por isso que eu tive uma aula com o Klaus, pedi para ele me ensinar e faço aulas com o Peter de jazz, mas eu tento sempre traduzir essas técnicas, decodificar essas ideias para colocar na música de maneira musical, que não soe como só técnica pela técnica, né? Eu vou encher de nota aqui que é legal, vou fazer... Porra, não tem sentido musical isso. Tem que ter um senso musical, né? A musical sense, a musical idea. Sem esquecer que o principal... né? Tem a mensagem da música. Se tiver uma letra, alguém cantando, tem que ouvir o que a pessoa está falando, a letra, a melodia. A gente tem que saber o nosso lugar e tentar interagir. Claro, e uma das coisas mais difíceis é você saber qual que é o limite de você aplicar suas coisas, suas ideias que você fica praticando e respeitar o trabalho. Então você tem que ter um bom senso, a sabedoria, a inteligência musical. Você tentar colocar o que é certo na hora certa. Acho que é o desafio da vida, da minha vida atualmente.
Acho que o telefone... Bom, Ramon, perfeito. Assim, eu vou fazer só um comentário. Acho que o celular do Duduka morreu, né? Duduka, telephone is gone. Eu queria finalizar, agradecer a vocês, né? Não sei quantas pessoas estão assistindo, mas eu sei que muitas pessoas assistirem isso. Tenho certeza que eu vou também estar salvando, né? Vai ficar salvo e eu vou compartilhar. Mas agradecer, depois eu falo pessoalmente, mando um e-mail para o Duduka, ao Peter, ao Klaus, e Ramon, todas essas questões que a gente acha que não, mas isso pensando no lado neurológico, né? Isso fica no nosso subconsciente e a gente lembra, fulano falou isso, Peter falou isso, Klaus falou isso, Ramon falou isso, e Duduka falou isso, e trouxe muitas questões importantes, e a gente aprende o tempo todo, né? Então, eu me sinto assim muito feliz de ter dado espaço dessa conversação. Foi uma coisa inicial assim que eu acho que ajuda muitos bateristas e principalmente os que não sabem a história, e isso acontece muito, né? Em faculdade principalmente. Então eu estava com essa vontade de fazer esse evento, de convidá-los, e eu queria agradecer muito, queria que a Luiz transmitisse isso. Eu queria agradecer muito a todos vocês convidados que toparam isso, essa conversa, né? Passou um pouco do tempo, mas eu estou muito feliz, só tenho a agradecer, e qualquer coisa, se precisar, a gente está aí.
Okay, Renato was just saying that sending a big thank you for Klaus and Peter for joining us today here. The contribution was amazing. You know, we had a wonderful time. We are sure the audience also had, and he feels he wants to do that again, but we pass a little bit of the time, but thank you a lot for your contribution. And if I may, I just add a little bit. If you have the book, your books, do you have there, Klaus, to show us here? And Peter or Ramon, I think has all of them. Right?
Klaus,
Yes.
I have your DVD and the latest book. I have both of those. And Ramon, I have your book. And yeah, I mean, I have Duduka's book. I mean, I have all these things, you know. So, job well done, gentlemen. You know, I feel honored to be in that stack with you guys.
Ramon Brooks.
Ramon has everything there.
And Klaus is releasing a new book about Taladido. Tell us a little bit.
Yeah, right. That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's it's going to be out somewhere by, I mean, the German version by end of February, and the international version then a bit later in March, most likely. And it's called Taladiddle, and it's about the unusual but pretty obvious common ground between that whole universe of South Indian rhythms and rudiments, because that whole school of Konakol and Solkatu, I mean, it's mostly about phrases of different length and structure, in which the arrangement of syllables can be collapsed or expanded, basically very much in the style as the late great Jim Chapin would say, have second thought towards that whole world of rudiments. So yes, Indian arrangement of syllables can be understood as groups of different length, just as rudiments can be understood as groups of different length. And both do have a certain inside architecture of how they are composed from a rhythmic standpoint. So we are presenting traditional Indian compositions in the Solkatu fashion. So there's a syllable voice part of it, and there's also a part of it that is, actually a rudimental solo, if you will. And we also supply some insight into Indian rhythms and how that whole school of Konakol and Tala and Anga and all of that is constructed. So just in case you have no idea at all how this all works, it may be something to look into. And on top of that, there's my platform, Open Minded Drumming, which will then also have courses on that. So it's a whole universe of drumming, and
amazing.
How do you spell Taladido? It's like here, T-A-L-A? No.
T-A-L-A.
Okay.
Diddle, Taladiddle.
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 Yeah.
Amazing.
New book.
And we are. I'm putting this together with a friend of mine, Claudio, who is who is awesome with all this Indian stuff that I don't know too much about. But we have great testimonials, both from Steve Smith and David Garibaldi, and from Annika and from Selva Ganesh Vinayakram, and quite some Indian masters. So we have blessings from both worlds, the Eastern and the Western world. So I hope that resonates with the drumming community.
Yes, amazing,
Wow.
amazing.
Congratulations in advance, Klaus. That's amazing.
Thank you so much, Pete.
Yeah. Vou traduzir rapidamente aqui, né, que o Klaus estava falando que ele está lançando um novo livro que chama Taladiddle, que ele faz um trabalho compilado aí do Conacol, né, das sílabas junto com os rudimentos, né, baterísticos, e com a contribuição aí de grandes bateras como a Annika Niles.
Não, ela teve vários comentários de
Comentários.
vários testemunhos, quotes desses
Yeah.
caras aí.
Da Annika, quem mais?
Garibaldi,
Garibaldi.
Steve Smith,
Steve
e o mestre indiano que eu esqueci o nome, que é
aquele facinho de falar, né? Aquele nome facinho.
That crazy name. What's the name of the master of Indian master, Klaus? What's the name of this guy?
Selva Ganesh Vinayakram.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Easy peasy lemon squeezy.
My God.
Yeah, never mind.
Oh, guys, that's it. So,
Klaus, do you have the book there to show, or another book, or the
Not
previous
yet.
book? No.
I mean, wait a second. I might have something.
Or something else you would like to show.
It's only a couple of loose pages. Like this is the book.
Okay.
That went for proofreading, but it's nothing really.
The cover.
Nice.
All right, great.
Good for you, man. That sounds amazing. It really does. Klaus, we got to hang out too. I hang out with Ramon all the time. I just waste his time mostly, but it would be great to just hang out with you sometime, or maybe all of us can hang out again.
Yeah.
For sure, Pete. I think we're overdue for some kind of hang, and
Definitely.
I've fully subscribed to what you mentioned in the conversation. I dig that a lot, and I mean I mentioned it in some sort of chat we had on Instagram or somewhere. I still remember how Jim was speaking about you, and he always admired your hands and your technique. So
and he admired your hands the same way. So we were hearing about each other from him, and that's an amazing thing. And we get to pass on the things that we took from that experience, and I think that's great. I was just thinking, you really have run with the idea of collapsing rhythms and stuff. And I said to myself when you said that, that's part of Jim's teaching I never really took yet, and I don't know why. I said to myself, yet another opportunity that I missed. So it'd be interesting to hear, what you remember about those times, and I see the end result of it, but it'd be interesting to hear from you, maybe in private sometime, like what that did to your brain when you heard it. Of course it did, yeah.
Alguém quer traduzir aí um pouco, não?
Não, vai você, não.
Porque os dois foram, né, alunos do Jim Chapin, né?
É.
E os dois têm isso cravado no cérebro, no corpo e na mente musical deles, que o Jim mudou completamente.
Ele e o Peter, como ambos estudaram com ele, eles estão querendo conversar em privado ou numa live, falando sobre a experiência de ter estudado com Jim Chapin e sobre as coisas dos rudimentos colapsados e expandidos.
O resultado final, né?
O Jim Chapin falava um pouco sobre isso, e o Peter queria ver o resultado disso no Klaus. Então basicamente isso aí.
Pois é, maravilhoso, hein?
We can do in Klaus and Peter. We can do a live about Jim Chapin's legacy.
Man. I mean, he's just a wonderful man. First of all, he was just funny to hang out with. he was a real character, I think. And I met him in Ohio because my teacher would bring him in. And then when I started teaching at the Drummers Collective, he would come every few months. He would come and teach, and I would always hang out with him. I would book lessons, and he's like, "Why are you here? I have nothing more to show you." And we would just hang out for 2 hours, and I felt like it sort of helped him with his trip. And the school gave me a break on it, so it wasn't very expensive for me, and he got a little more money. And every time I would learn something, I'm like, "See, you told me I wouldn't learn anything. Look at all the things you taught me today." And we had a good time. Yeah.
You just wanted to breathe with him, just to
Yeah.
see if you learn
I
more.
wanted to hang out and laugh with him as much as anything else. And I always had a couple little questions, and he's something that I think I see all of us, and we're trying to teach and do good in the world with education. And he was one of the masters of this that Klaus and I could see back in the day. We saw how he taught. We saw how much he loved music. We saw the thirst for him to learn more. It was amazing. And I think I'm speaking for Klaus, even though he's probably got more articulate words than I do right now. But we saw a master in action, and also we were a piece of history. Like we were connecting ourselves to this history that was old when we were young, and it's amazing, right, Klaus? I mean,
absolutely. I couldn't agree more, Pete. He was a true character. He was one of the most intelligent people I ever met. I mean, he knew like literally everything. There was no kind of topic in a conversation that you could not speak of, and Jim would always know it from inside out. And no matter if it be sports or politics or history or science or music or whatever it was, he always knew something, and he always knew more than you would expect him to know. And that was always like a complete surprise. It was just awesome. And I mean, his love for drums and sharing his knowledge was only surpassed by the love for a good cigar and a good glass of red wine. And playing golf, I forgot.
hilarious, right? Well, we should do this again. We should hang out again. And I learned a lot from you guys. Thank you very much for being so generous with your great knowledge and insight.
Yeah, thank you all you. Thank you
here.
to all.
Okay.
I'm always learning a lot.
So guys, Pete, thanks so much for having me. I look forward to maybe an encore or to speaking to you, Pete, or Ramon, or you, Renato, some other time. The world is not as big as it used to be with the gifts of modern technology. So I'm sure we get to speak another time, and
for sure.
And I for sure do look forward to maybe speaking to you in person once the circumstances and the framework of the pandemic allows again, and allows us all to travel.
Yes.
So until then, be safe, be healthy, wear the freaking mask, get the freaking vaccination, stay out of trouble. And
Thank you, Peter, my friend. Thank you, Klaus. Thank you, Renato, for the invitation. And our boss, Aloysio. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Control room.
Live long and prosper.
Bye.
Thank you, Peter, Klaus, Ramon, Luizio.
Renato, você quer fechar e falar alguma coisa?
Eu quero só mandar uma mensagem que essa conversa toda foi muito importante assim, para mim, que isso faz parte, né, do nosso crescimento como pessoas, assim, e ouvi-los, assim, vocês são mais experientes, no caso, e é muito bom, e que isso só tem a somar para mim. Eu trago isso como um aprendizado.
Okay, he's saying that he learned a lot today. You great guys, and was a great development and learning and understanding today. be very thankful to you all.
Thank you.
Same here. Okay.
Thank
Bye-bye,
you, everybody.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Guys.
See you later.
Take care.
See you.
Glad I see you guys.